And I think the whole idea of the Epstein Files is kind of like gaslighting, because what even is, we don't care about that, like the files. What are the files? We want the hard drive.
Right. Well, to paraphrase Bill Clinton, it depends on what the definition of a file is,
Right, exactly. Like, what is it? Like this, is this some concocted file somebody in some back office at Langley, put together with a couple of names in the black book?
Right.
Because the black book's been available for how many years now? Like, we can see all the addresses in there.
The black book went to auction recently.
Oh, really?
There's an auction house on Maryland's Eastern Shore called Alexander Auctions. They specialize mostly in World War II and even then mostly Nazi stuff. Mm-hmm. But they also deal in Americana, like paintings by Charles Manson, for example, stuff like that. Yeah, it's cool stuff. They tried to auction the black book recently. The estimate was $75,000 to $100,000, and it didn't sell. So the book is out there. Why then does the FBI not have a copy and then release the copy? If we know who was in the black book, why haven't they told us? To me, that would be part of a file. It would be part of a record. What you're talking about is even more important. Virginia Giuffre, who recently committed suicide, but who very bravely testified against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Are we talking about the lady who got hit by the truck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she killed herself a couple of weeks after that. She testified that there was a room at Epstein's mansion in the Caribbean where from the floor to the ceiling it was just monitors.
Right.
And there were guys in there monitoring the monitors. Every room in the house and every bathroom in the house was wired for video. So where are the videos? Why have we not seen anything? Why have we heard nothing about Prince Andrew or about Bill Gates or Bill Clinton or Alan Dershowitz or any of the other, A-list people who we know for a fact were at that house?
Yeah. It's like the JFK conspiracy where everybody knows. If you poll every American in this country who's paying, even a little bit of attention, they all know that this was some sort of conspiracy coup.
Right.
Oswald wasn't the only shooter, but the government just says, shut up, talk all you want, make your podcasts and your documentaries, but nothing, you're never going to find out the truth. It's almost the same thing here where they're just holding it back, and they know everybody knows.
Right.
Right. Everybody knows Jeffrey Epstein was working on the behalf of Israel intelligence. They know. I mean, just the fact that Ehud Barak was at his apartment and working in his office all the time, was his handler.
Yeah.
All the stuff with, even with Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right.
Like it's so obvious in plain sight. My question is, why can't Trump admit that?
I don't know. I was on another podcast yesterday, and Patrick.
PBD.
Yeah, and he said that this is the first real scandal in this second Trump administration. He said that the White House completely misread public opinion on this issue. That people not just believed him when he said he was going to release everything, they expected that it would all be released so that we could get to the bottom of this for once. And then you've got, you saw that press conference with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. I felt pain for them. You could see it in their faces. Like neither one of them wanted to say he killed himself and we didn't find anything.
Meanwhile, these are the guys who've been on podcasts for the last 2 years.
Exactly.
Pounding the table that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress to squash the Epstein Files. We got to get this out to expose all these leftist blood-sucking Democrats.
Right.
Second they get into power, it's like
everything changes.
They go into a dark room, they come out, Epstein killed himself, gone. It's complete
You and
insanity.
You and I have talked about this in the past. I always believed that Epstein killed himself only because of my own experience in prison, and I can lay that out. But the only thing that gives me pause is that Dr. Michael Baden, who is one of the foremost forensic coroners in the world, said that his hyoid bone was fractured, which was indicative of a strangulation, of a homicide, is what he specifically said. A homicide. Now, he may be wrong. There are lots of different ways to break your hyoid bone. It's very fragile. He could have broken it when he was, strangling himself with the sheet. Who knows? But for Dr. Baden to come out like definitively and say, I believe this was a homicide, it gives me pause.
There's a lot of other things in there too besides that
Sure.
are very fishy. Like the noose.
All parts of it are fishy.
Yeah. So the thing about the hyoid bone is there was some sort of statistic that was looked at in medical research where they looked at people that were hung or died by hanging, like a legitimate hanging where your feet can't touch the ground, right? Where there's actual like trauma.
Yeah.
And
Right.
And out of, I think 25% of those hangings that they looked at, the autopsies, 25%, 1 to 2 of those bones around the hyoid bone were broken. Epstein, all 3 were broken. And he was in a little cell.
Yeah, with no real height to jump from. I mean, how high up the top bunk on a bunk bed? That's not high enough to, do a Barzan Takriti.
Right.
Where his head popped off.
Yeah, exactly. And, his brother, Mark Epstein, has pointed out a lot of other weird things, like the noose. They said that it was cut. Like the actual photos they took and the descriptions they gave do not match up at all. They said the noose was cut. They had to cut it with scissors or whatever. But when you look at the photo, it was actually a hemmed seam.
What?
Yeah, all kinds of very, very odd things that just don't add up whatsoever. And the photo they released of his jail cell right after it happened was not the photo, not the image of the security footage.
No.
Completely 2 different cells.
Yes. In fact, I saw yesterday that there were 12 people in the cell after he died, 12 people in the cell who had nothing to do with the case. They just went for, take a picture with their phone or hang out or check it out, or where they could totally contaminated the scene. Plus another thing. And granted, MDC Brooklyn is a maximum security penitentiary, and I was in a low security prison. But if a prisoner in my prison was suicidal, which happens every once in a while, what they do is they put him in a cubicle where 3 of the walls are just glass. Okay, they take all your clothes, so you're naked, and they just give you this paper smock to put over yourself, and they hire other prisoners. They give you $5 for a 4-hour shift, and you just sit in a chair in front of one of those, glass walls, just staring at the guy. And if he tries to kill himself in there, you run and get a guard. So what they did with Epstein was they put him in a cell with, another prisoner to watch him, but the prisoner was in on multiple murder counts. He was a serial killer. Why in the world would you put him in with a serial killer?
Right.
Why don't you put him in with, the trustee? Or better yet, take him to medical, which is where they take suicidal prisoners in other prisons. Take him to medical and just have him sit in medical.
Right.
They knew he was suicidal. He said he was suicidal.
And they took him off suicide watch 2 days before he died.
Exactly. Why? Whose decision was that? There, in my mind, there are so many different people who could be prosecuted for a whole bunch of different roles in this death, whether he killed himself or somebody killed him. There are so many people, beginning with whoever was monitoring those monitors at the house, whoever was serving drinks and saw underage girls being I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that word on YouTube.
Yeah, you can say it's fine.
Okay, SA'd. When Pam Bondi came out the other day and said that there will be no arrests beyond what? Ghislaine Maxwell is the only guilty person here?
Right.
It was just the 2 of them. They were super people, and they did all of this on their own. There was nobody else behind them. And then nobody wants to talk about Israel, as you said.
Right.
Nobody wants to have that conversation.